Jovan, Buha! Buha!
Yo, yo, I'm Jovan Buha, NBA reporter for Buha's Block, and welcome to Beyond the Block. It has been a minute. Few of you have been asking about it and wanted to bring it back and start what I'm going to try to do these moving forward more frequently, especially during the playoffs, reacting to some of the best games during the playoffs. And then once we get to conference finals, try to go live after every game. But the last game reaction I did that was non-Lakers was the NBA Cup championship between the Spurs and Knicks. And tonight we saw what was, in my opinion, one of the best games of the season, potentially the best game of the season, considering the stakes at this point in the season. But also you have the MVP race and the two front runners right now going head to head, blow for blow, each player making big shots down the stretch. And ultimately, the Oklahoma City Thunder prevailed 129-126 over the Denver Nuggets. OKC improves to 51-15. Denver drops to 39-26. So OKC has a 3-game lead over San Antonio in the battle for the 1 seed. Denver is now a half game back of the Lakers for the number 5 seed and just a game and a half ahead of Phoenix, for the 7 seed. Shout out to the chat. Shout out to the late night gang. I know for the Laker fans in the chat right now, it's going to be some positive talk about the Thunder and the Nuggets. But this is what we do on Beyond the Block. So let's get into it. Backdrop for this game is OKC is obviously battling San Antonio for the 1 seed and trying to maintain their lead there. Denver just dropped to 6 last night with the Lakers winning, and they're trying to stay out of the play-in. And then you also have the MVP race with the latest results from Tim Bontemps' straw poll at ESPN. And I think just looking at the betting lines right now, suggesting that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Nikola Jokic right now are the top 2 candidates and the 2 most likely guys to win the award. And so this was a game that not only had stakes for both teams in terms of the standings and where they're potentially going to be, but I think it had some MVP stakes to it as well. On the OKC side, no J-Dub, no Chet, no Isaiah Hartenstein, and no Alex Caruso. They just got AJ Mitchell back. And then on the Denver side, they've been rounding into form, but no Peyton Watson. So I'm going to go through 3 takeaways. We'll open it up for Q&A. It'll go about 45 minutes or so and then get out of here. So takeaway number 1 for me is Shai likely just clinched his 2nd straight MVP. I think the back-to-back game winners, back-to-back daggers, however you want to deem it. He hits the 1 and then OKC. They have a blunder defensively. Just a terrible foul there by Jalen Williams. Then Jokic hits the 3. Jamal Murray draws the off-ball foul, screening for Jokic. Jalen Williams plows through him, and then Murray ties it. But Shai hits that shot, then he hits ultimately the game winner with 2.7 seconds left. Aaron Gordon throws up a heave, and it falls short. But just incredible shot making down the stretch from Shai. I'm not sure why Denver went away from doubling him. He had a remarkable game, 14 of 21 from the floor, had 35 points, 9 rebounds, 15 assists, setting his career high in assists, nearly had a triple-double, 1 steal, 1 block, and 0 turnovers. The only player to match that stat line was LeBron James in 2018, and 15 assists and 0 turnovers. And then you also look at the 14 of 21 shooting, made 67% of his shots, including going 3 for 7 at the 3-point line, and only 4 free throws for Shai. Did not get to the free throw line a lot. I thought Christian Brown defended him. Shai hit a bunch of shots on him, but Christian Brown defended him as well as one can. And especially in that second half, I thought third quarter, his defense was much better. Fourth quarter, Shai shook loose a couple times, including at the end, although Spencer Jones was the primary defender on him on those last couple possessions, or at least the final possession. But yeah, I don't know why. If I'm Denver, I go down doubling Shai, and if Jalen Williams hits his 8th three, or Lou Dort hits a game winner or whatever, or maybe there's a drive for like a floater or a pull up or something. I live with that, especially after he hit the first one. I don't know how you single cover him there again and let him just walk into that shot. So I thought some poor late game execution defensively from Denver. And really, big picture takeaway from the Denver side, like they have a real OKC problem on their hands, where they've had some great games this season, especially these last two, I think are 2 of the 10 best games that have probably been played this season. But they're now 0-3 against OKC. OKC's 3-0 against them. And to lose this game with OKC being without 3 of their 4 3 starters, I would say 4 of their 5 best players, in my opinion, in J-Dub, Chet, Hartenstein, Caruso. I think those are 4 of OKC's top 5 players, with Shai, of course, being their best player. So really disappointing and tough loss for Denver. But to bring it back to the MVP race, like the walk-off and the putting up the peace sign or the number 2, I don't know if that was in reference to because SGA wears number 2, or he's saying I iced my second straight MVP. But that was just incredible sequence of clutch plays and baskets and assists from him, and that Jokic was matching him. I mean, Jokic hits the 3 to bring it down to 3. Then you have the whole sequence with hits a floater in the paint. Then you have the sequence where he hits the 3 and Murray draws the foul. So like he was making big plays, and this was just a high stakes heavyweight bout. Jokic had 32, 14, and 13 on 12 of 19 shooting. So he was incredibly efficient as well. 3 for 6 on threes, 5 for 6 at the free throw line. Only 3 turnovers for him, which 13 assists to 3 turnovers. That's a great ratio there. So this was just like arguably the 2 best players in the NBA, in my opinion, the 2 best players in the NBA, and them going head to head, mano a mano, and just ultimately Shai prevailed. And I think this likely just locked up his second straight MVP. This is going to be one of those moments that people remember when they're casting their ballot for the MVP. So unless he somehow doesn't qualify due to the 65 game rule here, or OKC falls off and drops to like the 2 seed and Denver ascends here over they have the toughest remaining schedule among the top 6 in the West. So they do have a lot of marquee games this week. They're playing the Spurs, they're playing the Rockets, they're playing the Lakers. Denver has a shot here to at least like kind of put this in the rear view and have some statement wins against some of the best teams in the West. But it could also go the other way, where if they continue to spiral or lose, go like 1-3 this week, all of a sudden they're clearly the 6th seed. I think they will have dropped, a bit below the Lakers. And then at that point, it's just tougher to make the MVP case for Jokic. Takeaway number 2 for me is OKC supporting cast shines without multiple starters. So that was the crazy thing, was like, you look at who's out on the OKC side, and then you look at who's in and what they're doing, and you just realize how deep this team is. So tonight, I mean, one of the big stories was Jalen Williams, 29 points, 12 rebounds, hit 7 threes, and did have the big mistake at the end, but a couple blocks. I think like is at least physical with Jokic, and is a big body to throw at him, and can at least like bang with him in the post and stuff. Not like a stopper by any means. Definitely not at the level that the Chet Hartenstein combo can be when you're deploying them in a certain way against him. But he had a huge game, and part of the Denver game plan was the doubling of Shai, was the zoning up on the weak side at times, and daring OKC to beat them from 3. And that's exactly what they ended up doing tonight. 19 of 47 from 3 for OKC, 40%. And Denver shot well from 3 as well, 15 of 37. They made 41% themselves. Just that there was a volume gap there where OKC took 10 more threes and ultimately made 4 of them. But Jalen Williams was awesome tonight. This is the big Jalen Williams. AJ Mitchell returned, and he had a huge game off the bench. 24 points in his return, 9 of 16 shooting, 5 for 5 at the free throw line. He's their fourth best offensive player. I don't think that's like up for debate. I think it's their 3 stars in Shai, J-Dub, and Chet, and then it's AJ Mitchell. And this is just a piece that they have been missing, and this is a piece that I think even OKC was kind of missing last year, where it was like if 2 of their 3 stars were struggling offensively, they didn't really have another guy. Like it was, could Lou Dort get hot and hit 4 or 5 threes? Could Isaiah Joe shake loose and score a certain amount or wait? Like, I mean, they had depth, but there wasn't really a guy that they could necessarily rely on in a meaningful way offensively. And AJ Mitchell is that. And I mean, to me, he looks like a guy who could be running his own team someday soon, depending on how things shake out with his career. Like, I think he's a guy that could be a future all-star, honestly, with the way that, I mean, he's just surgical with the ball. And like they ran him in a couple different styles in terms of playing with Shai. He's obviously more of the weak side creator, and it's more so Shai leveraging his advantages and then driving and kicking to AJ to drive and attack a scrambling defense. Then there was also just stretches they ran the entire offense through him, and there was nothing Denver could do about it. So just AJ Mitchell, he's just a stud. He's a beast off the bench. Then Jared McCain. I mean, it's crazy that OKC, they weren't gifted Jared McCain because they did pay a price for him, but it's actually a lower price if you look at the context of the picks and what they actually gave up. But like, Philly gave this guy to OKC, and he hit 2 huge threes tonight in the fourth quarter, and just like closed the game. What was a big shooting threat out there, providing spacing and gravity for OKC's offense. So he's another guy who, like, he's not as steady as AJ Mitchell, and there are some nuances within the differences of their game, but he's another guy that could get hot and just light it up from deep. So I think those 2 guys coming off of OKC's bench, like, just give them, like, they got their starters, then they got Kason Wallace and Alex Caruso as the 2 defensive pit bulls that you just let wreak havoc defensively. But then you also have the changeup of, you could go with AJ Mitchell and Jared McCain. And I think AJ Mitchell's a pretty solid defender. Like, he's not at the Wallace Caruso level, but he's certainly, I think, above average. And like I think about earlier in the season, he did a really good job against Austin Reeves. I thought he locked up Austin in that first LA OKC matchup. So he's just, I think he's a future star. Then, I mean, I would say those are the primary 3 guys that stood out. Like, Isaiah Joe had a nice game, had some nice passing off of advantage creation from Shai, and made some big plays offensively as well. But that was the story for me tonight. Like, on the Denver side, Aaron Gordon had a huge first half, really like a huge first quarter, but huge first half, and then didn't really do much in the second half. They stopped going to him. They stopped leveraging his size, and only played 28 minutes tonight. Still getting his legs back from the injury, and still on minutes restriction, so they weren't able to use him as much as they would have liked. But I thought, like, he was just much less effective in the second half. Cam Johnson, 1 for 5, like, did hit a big 3 early in the fourth quarter, but didn't do really anything else. Murray went cold after like some really good defense. They were leaving, like, when Murray and Jokic were running the 2-man game, they'd often kind of come from behind and leave the shooter that was behind Murray, so he couldn't really see that passing angle, and they would sink in, dig in, and rear view contest and sort of like double and swarm him in the middle of the floor. Then Tim Hardaway Jr., I mean, the reason this wasn't a blowout, there was a couple times it was looking like it was going to be a blowout in OKC's favor. It also was potentially looking like a blowout in Denver's favor early on. Tim Hardaway Jr., 28 off the bench, hit 8 threes. I believe that was a season high for him in terms of threes. So like, it was very concentrated for Denver with their three best players and then Tim Hardaway Jr. offensively, but no one else really gave them anything. And I think ultimately the supporting cast for OKC was better than the supporting cast for Denver, despite OKC being without three starters and their best bench player. And then takeaway number 3 before we get into the Q&A is just, I want 7 more games of this in May. I loved that series last year. I thought it was the best series in the playoffs. You could argue OKC Indiana was up there as well, but that was a heavyweight bout. I thought Denver could have won the series. I said over the summer that if Denver was healthier or if Denver had its current bench, I think they would have won that series. Now that gap might be a little bit bigger. And while they've had a couple of close losses in OKC in the past week and a half, it does feel like OKC kind of has their number here. Again, like them not winning this game, like this was a game Denver kind of had to win. And you saw, Jokic played 40 minutes, Murray played 37, Brown played 38. Like they were going for it. They were playing their guys, extending their runway, and they just came up short. But I don't know if it would go 7 if these two end up matching up, but whether it's the Western Conference Finals or Western Conference Semifinals, I would love this matchup because I think it's there's a stylistic difference there that makes it a really intriguing battle. But with all that said, let's get into the Q&A. Peter, thank you for the super chat. Tier 1, OKC, Boston, Detroit, San Antonio. Everyone else is a pretender. Feel bad for Jokic. Truly a historic player with bad coaching and questionable defenders. I don't. So I would personally have Denver in this tier, but I am growing more concerned with their standing in this tier, and it is partly based on them getting healthy, and that just has not been in the cards for them up to this point this season. But I think tonight, for example, like they really missed Peyton Watson, and like I don't think Denver has the depth. Like OKC, all right, you don't have Chet, you don't have J-Dub. Well, AJ Mitchell comes up with an all-star level like bench performance, and Jared McCain hits a bunch of big shots, and Jalen Williams and AJ Mitchell combined for 53 points. That basically was the production, probably even more of the production than you'd expect from J-Dub and Chet. So like OKC has the depth to withstand multiple injuries, which is just like their depth and roster. They're the deepest team in the league. I don't think it's particularly close. I don't think Denver has the same leeway with their bench and rotation. So I think them missing Peyton Watson is like a huge loss for them. In my opinion, he's been their 4th best player this season behind Jokic, Murray, and Gordon. So you add Peyton Watson in, especially with Cam Johnson's struggles. Like Cam Johnson is just kind of out there. He's not really doing much. I think if they ultimately pivot away from him and start Watson, and it's Jokic, Gordon, Watson, Brown, and Murray with Johnson, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway, Spencer Jones, and Valanciunas, like that's their top 10. I think that group is here with these teams. Now they're probably 4th or 5th on the list. I'm not saying that, like, I don't know. I'm still high. I guess point being, like, I'm still high on Denver. I am like starting to drop them a little bit. I've had them number 2, like up until recently, but they just have not quite put it together in the way that you would want to see. And I do think a big part of that is the injuries. So I think there's a real chance here, like even if they end up 6, right? Because now it's looking like there is a chance with how difficult their schedule is. They've dropped to 6 now. Maybe they end up as the 6th seed. That's not the worst thing in the world, especially if whoever's the 3 seed, whether it's Houston, Minnesota, or the Lakers. I think Denver could beat any of those teams in round 1, especially if it's Houston or the Lakers. And then you're on the San Antonio side, which I think would be a tough matchup for them. But I also think they could beat San Antonio. and then you avoid OKC until the conference finals. Then at that point, I think OKC would be favored, but who knows with the injuries and whatnot. Like J-Dub's dealing with his own stuff with the hamstring stuff, so we'll see. But in general, I agree with you. Like Boston, with Tatum's looked much better. I mean, Tatum's looked as good as anyone has looked coming off an Achilles absence ever. I guess like KD looked pretty good coming back, but he also came back much, it was very quick. Detroit is still unproven. And I think if you can find a way to, if you're doubling Cade, if like Denver's approach tonight against Shai, if you're doing that against Cade, I wonder how Detroit can make you pay in like an actual 7-game series with stakes and testing some of their shooters and just like some of their off-ball scoring. And then San Antonio is also unproven, but I think they're like so far ahead of schedule and have such blue chip talent that I will make that bet on San Antonio. So I agree with your general like tiering here. I just think I'm not giving up on Denver after this, but I would say I'm less confident that they can beat OKC after this for sure. And so, maybe that inherently puts them on a different tier because San Antonio has shown they could beat OKC as we've seen throughout the season. Like they beat them 3 times in a row. And it was like that, especially that third one, OKC really wanted that game. And San Antonio was just like, nah, like you're not, we're better than you. Or at least we match up better, against you. So, but yeah, I mean, the whole Denver situation, I do feel for Jokic in terms of, I think they've mismanaged it, and with a more competent situation, he would have had better rosters. And I mean, like, I think they've done a better job the last few years, to be clear, but like you go earlier in the 2020s and I think they, especially coming off of the title, I feel like they kind of screwed things up with how they handled that bench situation. Jeffo, thank you for the super chat. If Shai gets back-to-back MVPs, back-to-back finals MVPs, where are we putting him all time? This is potentially going to be one of the highest peaks ever. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to say without knowing how the rest of his career plays out. And just like, I think once you reach a certain level, there's an element of longevity. And it was funny because I don't know if you guys saw there was the whole discourse about Shai versus Russ and who's the best Thunder player of all time, or who's the greatest Thunder, whatever. And D Wade said that Shai's only been doing this for 2 years. And then, someone posted like, nah, Shai's been averaging 30 plus for 4 straight years. Like Shai's been at this level. I mean, he's obviously been ascending like within this level, but Shai's been a special player for several years now. Now, can he, will he continue to ascend from this, which is already a very, very high level? I don't know, but if he sustains, he's basically been between 30 and 33 and 5.5 rebounds, 5.5, 6 assists for like the last 4 years. I mean, if he sustains that for another few years, like that is a pretty, especially on the efficient. I mean, he's been 50+% all 4 years as well, and has improved as a 3-point shooter. I mean, that's just, that's a special prime. That's a special peak. So I don't know where, I mean, 2 titles and two titles, 2 MVPs, 2 finals MVPs, that probably puts him, I mean, that definitely puts him top 30. It potentially puts him top 25. I think with, like, there's been such a talent boon in the NBA recently, where having guys like Jokic has ascended to a certain level, Giannis has ascended to a certain level in terms of like the all-time hierarchy. You've also had the still ongoing generation, but like previous generation of LeBron, KD, Steph. So like some of these all-time conversations, it's like at some point you start like it's the top 15 is pretty crazy. And even like the top 20 is pretty crazy. And you have like, guys who have won multiple MVPs, multiple championships, continually getting like pushback in that all-time hierarchy. So I think there's going to be people who say he's a top 20 player at that point. And I think it's also different. Part of the reason why I mentioned career longevity is just because I think, to your part of your point, like someone's peak versus longevity is, it's two separate things, right? So that's where I think, like with LeBron, for example, if you're going off of longevity, that's where I think LeBron has the clear case as the GOAT. If you go off of peak, then I think, he still has a strong case, but like that's where Jordan's peak compared to his, or like there's several other guys where you actually go peak for peak, and it's at least debatable from a longevity perspective. Like LeBron is in his own tier. I guess you could throw Kareem in there, but even then, I think LeBron has been better than Kareem was toward the end of his career. So, it's gonna be an interesting conversation if Shai ends up winning 2 MVPs, 2 Finals MVPs. I think top 30 for sure. Top 20, that might be like a little high, but I think it's not even more about like winning more MVPs or winning more Finals MVPs, more titles at that point. It's more so like just longevity. Like if he again continues this sort of stretch he's had here for another 4 or 5 years, and even if he never wins another MVP, another Finals MVP, another title again, if he's done this for like 8 to 10 years and he has those accolades, that's where you're just talking about a special player. It's sometimes it's hard to rank these guys while they're like not even done with their prime yet, right? With Shai, you could argue he's like just entering his prime. Like late 20s is when Hall of Famers typically, you see your peak usually around like age 29. Jay Spare says, thank you for the super chat. Did I see Buha branding on that t-shirt? Yes. We got this is a new, I got a new shipment of Buha's block gear. So I got a sticker, I got a magnet, I got some coffee mugs, I got a new t-shirt, testing out a few t-shirts. Just want to see which one I like the best in terms of which one I want to be as like the just brand and sort of the fit and all that stuff. And then I also got a hoodie. So yeah, testing out some stuff. Have a collab I did that I'm really excited about in terms of branding. It's a Late Night Gang collab, and then also have another one I'm working on right now. So hoping to get this stuff, like the store set up by the end of the month. That's my goal right now. So yeah, I'm rocking some Buha's block gear and pretty excited about what's to come at the end of the month. Peter, thank you for the super chat. LAL with no good defenders, better defense than Denver. Local Denver media crucifying DA. Do you think he's one and done? So what's funny is Clinches, who is a consultant with NBA teams and tracks this stuff in terms of offensive organization. He's loved DA, David Adelman, the Nuggets coach, for years. And he's been on top of, he really wanted the Lakers to land David Adelman. I think he's a good X's and O's coach. And I will note, I thought he did some smart things in the second half. I really liked his second half adjustments from a rotation perspective. He didn't really play Spencer Jones in the first half. And I thought Spencer Jones provided a level of physicality, and he had several offensive rebounds, and just I think was a better fit than what they were doing in the first half. Then he also cut out Jonas Valanciunas, who I thought had a really rough shift in the first half. And that's when, to me, the game flipped in the first quarter really, but Denver got out to a double-digit lead quickly, and then OKC progressively chipped away at it. But Denver was still up going into the second quarter. When they pulled Jokic from the game, that basically was it. From that point on, OKC took control of the game and never really relinquished it. Denver stormed back in the third quarter, and they had that, I think it was a 12-0 run, 14-0 run to take back the lead, and the teams were trading baskets. But then OKC closed the quarter well, went into the fourth, and then it just always felt like OKC was kind of in charge. It kind of felt like it was their game to lose from that point on. But he did cut Valanciunas. Like, he completely changed the second half rotation compared to the first half rotation. And I thought one of the smart things he was doing was, like, he kind of knew the five guys he wanted to close with. So he was subbing out one at a time to get them like a breather. But it was basically like, I mean, for the fourth quarter, he basically played like the key guys the entire fourth quarter and like really went for it. So from that perspective, I also think some of the stuff they were doing against Shai, like, they were just limiting Shai's shot attempts and making him much more of a playmaker. And OKC made them pay by hitting a bunch of threes. But what I didn't like them going away from it at the end of the game, because it was like, you already had this strategy that helped get you to this point. And like, yes, they've been making some shots and capitalizing on the way that you guys are defending them. But especially after he hit the first one, I don't see how you could defend that play the same way with the second one. So that's partly on him. I mean, certainly, on the players as well. But yeah, I don't think he's one and done. I mean, unless, I have no indication that Jokic doesn't like him, but like, that would be maybe the one thing of, but no, I think he's going to be there. And anytime there's certainly an element of like, they didn't necessarily scour the market for a head coach. It was just, he replaced Mike Malone, did a great job in the playoffs, and then got promoted. But the one thing I will note with the defense thing, and this has been something I've been on, and partly why I'm still high on Denver, is when they've basically been at full strength, and more so when you look at like their start to the season, they were a top 10 defense at the beginning of the season with their primary rotation. So in the big picture of the season, yes, they have dropped and have a worse defensive rating than the Lakers. But I would argue they have had, when they've been healthy, they have flashed a defensive ceiling that is higher than the Lakers, and is high. Just like, I don't think they're necessarily a top 10 defense, but I think that they are at full strength, firmly a top 15 defense. And tonight, I actually thought they had some pretty good defensive, especially that first quarter. It did eventually, tailor off a bit, but then I thought some of the stretches in the fourth quarter were pretty good. So yeah, I mean, I think David Adelman is better than maybe some people are giving him credit for. But look, like, Denver is in the pressure cooker right now. Like, every season is a must-win season for them. You don't know how long this window is going to be open for them. So who knows? But I think he's probably there next season. All right, going to go about 10 more minutes here. So if you guys have more questions, drop them in the chat. Connor Phillips says 5 more minutes. Yeah, we're going 10 more minutes. So Chuck Dangler, aka Fang Charlie, asked about the merch. So I'm going to be using this company called Fourth Wall, which several other YouTube creators use. That's how I found out about it. It looks like, yes, they do have global manufacturing and delivery. Just looking at it now, they deliver to Mexico, they deliver throughout Europe, they deliver to China and Japan, they deliver to Australia. So they deliver globally, and says they have 17 different manufacturers around the world with the average shipping cost just under $5. So that and average shipping time is 4 days. So that's pretty good. But yeah, so I'll be curious to know for those in I'm going to get to you, big fan, in a second. I'm curious if you guys would want to vote on merch. So I have a couple designs that I hired people for. So those are like, I'm going to be putting those designs out for sure. Then I have some of the branding. So we got like over my shoulder, the B logo, which is the that is the primary logo for the show. And then you have the Buha's Block word mark. So a lot of stuff. Like for example, just made some mugs that one side has the B logo, one side has Buha's block on it, and then this T-shirt has Buha's block on the front, the B logo on the back. Experimenting with like different styles. So I was considering either just doing a bunch of options, and like one of the cool things about Fourth Wall is it's like there's just a lot of customization with it, and they handle all the shipping and stuff. So I could just do a bunch of different options, and you guys pick whatever you like among that. I could just share some of the mocks of stuff, and then you vote on what you like, and whatever gets the most votes is the stuff I'm putting up. But I think I believe in having as many options as possible. So I think that's the way that I'm leaning. You guys, so I'm going to go back to big fan of canned ham. Asks Jovan, would you ever consider wearing a navy blue t-shirt? I've worn navy blue t-shirts before, but I don't know. I have other non-black t-shirts. I have a green t-shirt. I have a dark gray t-shirt. I have white t-shirts too. I just don't wear them on stream and don't wear them as much. Just for me, it's simple. Like I like having a uniform. I like having I just basically know I'm going to wear a black t-shirt, and then it's a matter of what pants am I wearing and what jacket am I wearing. And a lot of my clothes like match in work with and around the black t-shirt. So it's almost like the anchor for my outfit. And it's clean, it's consistent. I feel like most people look good in a black t-shirt. So yeah, I'm committed to it. But guys, talk about LeBron. So LeBron was not a full participant today in practice. The Lakers have him listed though with a right hip contusion and the left foot arthritis. So that is a new injury, not the elbow injury. But LeBron is day to day. He'll probably be a game time decision tomorrow. Go through his pregame warm up, and then they'll see. The really interesting thing to me coming out of the last couple of days, aside from LA having a statement win, is just a Thero. Like some of the highlights and some of the film I watched from that last game he played in the G League, it wasn't like, so he goes 5 for 5 from 3, which is impressive, especially because I think he was like 2 for 12 or 2 for 7, excuse me, in his previous few games before that on threes. So regress to the mean in a positive sense, shoots the ball well. But there was one play where he had a drive where it was like a quick crossover and just driving with force to the rim. And it was the type of play that I don't know if any Laker could do that. Like, I guess LeBron is the closest, but he doesn't have the same, like, just downhill force and athleticism that he used to have, obviously. Like prime LeBron, of course, could do that. And even LeBron like a couple years ago, but with like a bit of a physical decline from LeBron the last couple of years, he's the one guy who can maybe do that. But there was just like a level of just power and speed and athleticism from Adu on that drive, mixed in with some crisp ball handling that we have not really seen from him. And I was like, what was this? Like, what is going on here? Then he also had a whip around pass where he's not known for his passing, and he drives and just like flicks the ball and fires it to the left side past multiple players. And it was just this bullet pass that like was kind of Luka, LeBron, Austin-esque. And I guess Marcus has had some passes like that as well. But it was just like, where is this coming from with Adu? Where like he's been putting up numbers, he's been playing well, had a good, great shooting night, going 5 for 5 from 3. But he's like flashing some things that if he's all of a sudden got this like crossover that he can beat guys off the dribble, attacking a closeout, and he's showing some passing chops, that changes his ceiling. And JJ was asked about it today at practice and said that because he was coming off the injury, because he got re-injured, and just sort of where they feel like he's at, they've wanted this year to be more of a developmental year. That could have potentially changed had he not gotten injured, according to JJ. But he said at this point, it's just not in the cards for a dude to be a rotation guy, that the Lakers have enough trouble trying to navigate their rotation when fully healthy, and that it's just not really something that's going to happen. So I don't think it's going to happen this year, but like the Adu I saw in that last game, very intriguing player who I think could be a rotation player as soon as next season if he can hit his threes at like not even necessarily a league average level, like maybe a little bit below league average, plus some of the things he's been flashing like that. It got me excited, and it reminded me kind of Max Christie and the jump that he made. Because remember, Max Christie's second summer league, and this for Adu would technically be his first summer league. Max Christie all of a sudden was like he was diamond guys up and getting 4, 5, 6 assists. He's the primary ball handler, and it ultimately didn't amount to much in terms of his actual NBA role, like doing those things, but it did show he could do more than just be a 3-and-D guy, just be a spot up shooter or a guy coming off screens. And I think Max has actually kind of flashed some of that stuff as well. I mean, did a little bit with the Lakers, certainly has done that in Dallas, and he can put the ball on the floor and create a little bit. So if Adu just has he's taller than Max, he's more athletic than Max. I think he's got a higher defensive ceiling than Max. So if he could do some of those things and continue to develop that, that's really encouraging if you're the Lakers. Peter, I did not see your last super chat. Following up here, do you think Kroenke is too focused on the Rams and Arsenal? They don't go into the tax with the Nuggets. Jokic extension eligible this summer. It seems to be a little bit of that. They paid a little bit more attention this summer, and you saw that with them, the MPJ trade and just the way that they rebuilt the bench. And I would say definitely their best roster since 2023, but maybe the best roster of the Jokic era. It's just they now have OKC, who's developed into a juggernaut. San Antonio has arrived sooner than expected. Boston was able to maintain, basically remain in the top 3 in the East and then add Tatum to that. So, in a way, there's a scenario, I think, where at the end of the season, we look back and say like the 3 best teams in the league were the last 3 champions, with Denver in 2023, Boston in 2024, OKC in 2025. Like I think all 3 of those teams have a legit chance if they're all healthy and playing their best basketball. But there are no assurances. Just OKC has a lot of leeway there. I think they could still win the title without a couple of their rotation guys, which you can't really say for just about anybody else. But they would be. Denver fans will they will burn down Ball Arena if there's any funny business with the Jokic extension. Like that is, you're offering him the max at every penny, and then you go from there. So we'll see. It could be a big summer for Denver, and certainly a summer that the Lakers will be monitoring with their known interest in Jokic and potentially pairing Jokic and Doncic together as soon as summer 2027. All right, going a couple more minutes here. MD Ultra, Thunder have been injured, yet they keep winning and are the number 1 seed. Yeah, for those who remember, I did an episode of Buha's block coming out of the All-Star break, and I looked at the Lakers' injuries relative to the rest of the top 6 in the West. And the Thunder had actually been the most injured team of the top 6 in the West in terms of, I looked at each team's top 10 rotation guys, because I didn't want to be like, because the Lakers have even used this, and it's not even, I think they've used it on the broadcast. They're like only the games where they're at full strength, but there's like a couple games where Adu was out and they don't consider that a full strength game. And I'm like, I'm sorry, he's not a rotation player right now, as much as so much of the fan base wants him to be. So like if Adu is out, I'm not considering that a non full strength game for the Lakers. Like if they have their top 10 guys, that to me is a full strength game. So I looked at the absences only of the top 10 rotation guys for each of the top 6 teams. OKC was number 1. Denver was a close number 2. Then there was a bit of a gap, I think like around 25 games or so, to the Lakers. Now, technically, I didn't include Fred VanVleet in the Houston part because he was lost before the season. So I was just looking at like in-season injuries. If you want to include VanVleet, that would push Houston. I think they had the second fewest injuries. That would push them to the third most. So they would actually jump the Lakers and be right there behind Denver. So it just depends how you want to view that. But yeah, it's crazy that OKC has had as many injuries as they've had. Like a full strength OKC team might have actually had a chance to break the all-time record. But I mean, they've come back down to earth. I think the injuries have caught up to them at times. And there's also just the championship hangover. We always see teams let go of the rope a little bit in that second season after the title. But I mean, they're incredible. Madison says, wouldn't it be funny if Kawhi solo Thunder and beats them first round? I mean, it would be insane. That would be quite the feather in Kawhi's playoff cap. Madison says that he thinks the Spurs will beat the Thunder. It's possible. It's possible because I think the thing I talked about, I think it was last night on the shows, we were talking through some of the top of the West. Like the thing with Wemby is he just shuts off the paint when he's out there. And if Wemby could stay healthy and play 38, 40 minutes, you're not even really trying him. Like teams just don't really try him in the paint. So it's like you really become a jump shot heavy team. And I think for the Thunder and the Rockets, the Thunder with AJ Mitchell, with Jared McCain, I think have more bench firepower and have more shooting overall than they did last year. But we've also seen like when they've lost, it's typically been teams pack the paint. They miss a bunch of threes. They're in like the 20s in terms of 3-point percentage, and they just can't make enough shots. Same thing with Houston. Houston's another team that you could test them with the shooting. So I think San Antonio would just especially the deep drop that they can run where it's like Stephon Castle is back pressuring you and rear view contesting and he's funneling you into Wemby. You're not looking to shoot there. You're looking to drive and kick, but it also allows the Spurs to play home a bit. So that's what partly makes their defense so special and also makes them a team that you kind of have to crack it open with some 3-point shooting and making them play defense more honestly or like forcing Wemby out of there. But of course, then San Antonio is going to have their counters to that and try to keep him closer to the basket. So it's an interesting chess match for sure. Alma notes Stephon Castle is a beast. Yes, he's one of my favorite players in the league. He's awesome to watch. Sky Falcon 5 says, I think teams put their center on Castle in the playoffs and make him shoot. I think so too. He's going to get tested. I mean, that's playoff basketball, right? So I think teams are going to do that. If the Lakers are playing Denver, for example, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers see some of that with Marcus Smart or Jake LaRavia or Vando. OKC is going to see that with Dort. They're going to see that. I mean, even Wallace had a quiet game tonight. Like that's another thing. Wallace is one of their best players. He only played 17 minutes. I mean, they're even going to see it a little bit with Jalen Williams, the big man Jalen Williams, even though he hit 7 threes tonight. Then Denver's going to see that with Christian Brown. They're going to see it with Bruce Brown. Honestly, with how Cam Johnson's been shooting, he might see a little bit of that. They'll see it with Peyton Watson too. And then Houston will see it with Thompson. I'm sure teams will dare Şengün to shoot. So yeah, I mean, you could go down the list and like there's guys that teams are going to dare to shoot, but certainly with San Antonio, like Castle's shot making and specifically 3-point shooting are going to be huge factors. Master Blasters notes Wemby will be fatigued in a 7-game series. It's going to be interesting to see how he holds up over the course of the playoffs. Like that's a wild card here with San Antonio that if they have Wemby for a full playoff run, I could see conference finals or even a championship. If he's not fully available or he does get fatigued in his first playoff run, that's where maybe they're susceptible in round 1 or 2. Connor Phillips, what do you think the West first round matchups end up being? Good question. I'm going to pull up Tankathon strength of schedule quickly. I'm kind of leaning toward Denver being the 6th seed right now. That's been one thing because again, you look at their schedule. Their schedule is insane this week. They play Houston, San Antonio, and the Lakers. So you could argue, depends how you feel about Minnesota, but like, I mean, they're playing 4 of the other 5 best teams in the West, including the 2 best teams up to this point in the season in OKC and San Antonio, all in the same week. Like this is, I would say, arguably I would love for someone to show me a tougher week that anyone has had other than at OKC, home Houston, at San Antonio, at LA. Like that is a brutal week. So I would not be surprised if Denver goes 1-3 this week, or at best 2-2, and that's probably going to keep them in the 6th spot. But then they have a manageable schedule after that. It's like at Memphis, Toronto, Portland, at Phoenix, Dallas, Utah, Golden State, Utah, San Antonio again, Portland, Memphis, OKC, San Antonio. But at that point, OKC and San Antonio might both have already like clinched first and second and might be resting their guys. Although, as we saw tonight, even a shorthanded OKC could beat Denver. But like after this pocket of the schedule, Denver's schedule actually eases up a lot. If you look at Houston, Houston's got a manageable schedule as well. They got Toronto, Denver, New Orleans, Lakers twice, Atlanta, Miami, Chicago, Minnesota. They've got a reasonable schedule. I think Minnesota has a tougher schedule. They got Lakers, OKC, Boston, Houston, Detroit twice, Houston again. I mean, Houston and those Houston, Minnesota games are going to be huge. If I had to predict, I think right now it's probably, I would say, I think I'm leaning OKC 1, San Antonio 2, Houston. I think the current standings are what it's probably going to be. Depends how the Lakers close, and also partly depend. Like if the Lakers beat Minnesota, that would. I believe in updating my predictions like as things go. So right now, with Minnesota being a full game ahead of LA, I would give Minnesota the edge in the 4-5 battle. But certainly possible that the Lakers could pass them, especially if the Lakers win tomorrow. So let me revise this. I think Houston will jump Minnesota because they have an easier schedule. And it will be OKC, San Antonio, Houston, Minnesota 4, LA 5, Denver 6. Then I think it'll be Phoenix 7, Clippers 8. I think Golden State will miss it in the play-in. And then I think OKC, so it'll be OKC Clippers, which will be hilarious because of the trade and just the backdrop with the pick and stuff. Then San Antonio, Phoenix, Rockets, Nuggets, Lakers, Timberwolves rematch. So that's my top 8. Madison, Jovan, how many games do we win? I say 50 on the dot. LeBron and Luka know it's game time. So I answered this on Twitter recently, and I said 49. This was going into the Knicks game. I had LA going 11-8 down the stretch. I thought the Knicks game, like, I'll say this. If they beat Minnesota, I will revise that to 12-7 and then have them winning 50 games. But because the breakdown I had them with like 6 locks, 3 like questionable games, and then so let's just go through it. Minnesota is definitely a losable game. I would not be surprised if the Lakers are underdogs going into tomorrow's game, like from a line perspective. Chicago, I think, is a lock. Denver's another losable game. Let's just go through the tough games. Minnesota, Denver, Houston, Detroit, Cleveland, OKC. So I think those are 8 games that will have real stakes on both sides. All those teams are going to be jockeying for positioning. I think OKC will still be going for it at that time if San Antonio's breathing down their neck. So, I mean, based on the Lakers' performance up to this point in the season, I would go like 2-6 based on that 8-game stretch. They have been playing better in some of these matchups, so you could go 3-5 or 4-4, but I just don't see a realistic scenario in which they go better than 4-4 against those teams, and realistically, probably something like 3-5. Let's just say 3-5. Then Chicago, I think, is a lock. I think Miami. Let's just go through the locks. Chicago's a lock. Indiana's a lock. Brooklyn's a lock. Washington's a lock. I think Dallas is a lock, and then Utah to close the season. So that's 6. So now I'm saying they're going 9-5. Then the swing games for me are Miami, Orlando, Golden State, and Phoenix. I think those are 4 games that the Lakers will probably be favored in, but no assurance that they win all 4 of those or even necessarily go 3-1. Like Miami, they played the Lakers earlier in the season. It was a very close game. Like both teams are much different at that point, but like that's a big game. Second out of a back-to-back, also coming out of the Houston game. So they play twice in Houston, second out of a back-to-back, go to Miami, and that's going to be a tough back-to-back. Orlando's already beaten the Lakers recently. Then Golden State, that's been a tougher matchup for LA outside of the last game. At that point, theoretically, Steph would be back and they'd be jockeying for playing position. If Steph's out and they're tanking at that point, that's a different conversation. I think LA should win regardless, but like it just depends on the context there. And then Phoenix has had LA's number this season. They're 3-1 against them, even beating them shorthanded without Brooks and Booker. Brooks should be back at that point, and Phoenix could be jockeying with Denver maybe for like the 6th seed, or at least jockeying with the Warriors or Clippers to stay at 7. So that would be a big game for Phoenix. So if we just conservatively like split it, that gets you to 11-7 from this point, which would get you to 50-32. So it really, to me, comes down to how they fare against the best teams. If they go 3-5 over the final 8 against the best teams, they hit 50. If they go 2-6, they hit 49. So I'm leaning more optimistically on the 50 side, but yeah, I'm kind of at like 49-50. All right. I'm going to wrap here though. I appreciate you guys for tuning in to an overdue episode of Beyond the Block. It had been too long. Again, 6 weeks. I apologize. Just moved. Things have been hectic, and the Lakers keep me plenty busy, but wanted to find some time to react to tonight's game. In my opinion, arguably the best game of the season, and a game that likely just locked up the 2nd straight MVP for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But appreciate you guys. I'll be back tomorrow after Lakers Wolves. It's an 8 p.m. Pacific time, so we'll likely be going live pretty late, probably 11:30 p.m. Pacific, maybe even closer to midnight. But we'll do my best to get out of post-game as quickly as I can. But shout out to the chat. Shout out to the late night gang. Appreciate you all. Want to do some of these shorter streams. I think you guys know how long I typically go with the stream. So sometimes I'm like, do I want to stream right now for like 2.5 plus hours? But I want to start doing some more shorter streams, but more consistent in putting out more volume on like, off days, right? Like obviously I'm still going to be doing the post game stuff, but appreciate you guys. For those watching on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on channel notifications, and like and comment on this video. For those listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast platform of choice, please be sure to follow, download, and leave a 5-star review. I'll be back tomorrow. I'll talk to you all then.